game number 2. Talking about game 2, we're going to be figuring out where this battleground is. After that victory from Gale Force, No Tomorrow goes with the first pick, and Gale Force now going to take us to Cursed Hollow. It's a favorite map here for Gale Force, one of the few teams that, really enjoy sticking to it, but it's not like it's a low priority for No Tomorrow either. It's one of their highest priority too, so this is one of those, like last series, we're saying overlap, who ends up picking those maps. Usually it's the team that's confident, right? The one that considers themselves a better team that will end up selecting it. So Gale Force showing confidence in game 1 in play, displaying it here in map selection for game 2.
This brings up a completely different meta, and I think outside of both of these teams, especially combined with both of these teams, you might look at something a little bit more standard, but now you have to really consider the Abathur pick. And the Equinox factor, we saw the Sonya that game, might even be able to consider the Illidan on this map if you really want to shake things up, if you really think that's where your strengths lie. This is actually the team, although they don't have Jason anymore, this is the team that ran a Lost Vikings composition. Jason was that Lost Vikings player, and a really good one. They had a very unique strategy, and I think they won in something like 7 or 8 minutes, maybe 9. It was a very short game. So they have tricks up their sleeve. We'll see if any of those come out here.
They aren't the only team that is known, of old to bring out the Vikings once in a while. Gale Force is a squad that's comfortable doing that. I will say this. I would be very happy if we do not get a Vikings. I not a huge fan of the play style.
You should say that midway through the draft the same way that you said about Lily earlier, and it'll just instantly appear like magic.
No Tomorrow, what are we going to see from them first bans? The question is Maiev worth it now, right? I feel like their paradigm has got to be kind of manipulated as well, or at least kind of temporarily thwarted. The confidence levels they have towards it, they're thinking about it. Other than that, Medivhs have got to be something we think about. Gale Force ended up banning it from the first pick slot last game, so I think it's fair to assume that they'll ban it either way here, giving you a bit more options for No Tomorrow.
Spending a lot of time thinking about this, and I think you hit it. It's got to come down to Maiev, and it's a matter of, do they also think that they have a chance of Maiev? And if they don't ban Maiev, and then Gale Force bans Maiev, are you willing to give up Medivh? And in terms of what we've seen this year, we have not seen a Medivh game from the backline of Casanova and Shrite. It's not to say that they can't play it or they haven't practiced it, but there is a big difference in terms of, can this be effective? As we do have Abathur show up here with our first ban.
Said it before, I'm going to stick to it. I think Gale Force is still going to ban the Medivh. I don't... Just because they were willing to ban it in that first pick slot in the last game, but maybe they feel like if they didn't go in that route, I'd normally say it'd be a support, and you'd be willing to try and choke the support because you are calling him out not to get the first pick. Get the first pick Medivh, then you go with the support advantage. Something like the Malfurion band out here, and then going into the Stukov. Seems like it's the case. We waited 43 seconds to land on what is expected. Medivh taken off the board.
I don't think that Maiev is a first pick needed hero for No Tomorrow, but I think that Gale Force will happily go down that route unless they have other things in mind, like playing around a global, things like that, because I do not see Equinox playing something like a Dahaka, even though Dahaka has fallen off quite a bit. Maybe an off-tank ETC for a stage dive post-level 10, but I don't think he wants to do that. I mean, when you have Equinox on that side, you just got to think of aggressive heroes. ETC kind of fits that, but I don't think it's the same playmaking style. He used to do that when he was on Gale Force around this time last year, so it's something he's familiar with. But we'll see if that's a style they want to participate in.
Stukov, what do you expect out of this for Gale Force? The Malfurion picked up. Even though Gale Force last game showed they have slightly different priority than the rest of NA, so they are going to mix it up. I thought we would still get this to still see the Stukov inevitably, but instead the Maiev, I guess I should have expected that to be Maiev Stukov because the synergy there is there as well. So it's a pretty bold move to take a step away from that, but they go with the Tyrael.
I oftentimes refer to Equinox as a melee player, but he also loves playing Tracer, and this is pre-Tracer.
He's
you
like
know, changes.
The sign of an A. He's like that. Like, I've played Warrior, but like I'm secretly a Tracer main. Little do you know, like back pocket.
He loves Tracer.
He loves it.
He loves Tracer. When I talked to him earlier this week, I talked to him about like with some of the upcoming changes. He's like, "Is this the Tracer one?" I said, "No, not yet." And he's like, "Man," he's like. And we started going back and forth talking about Tracer. He's like, "Man, I've loved Tracer for so long before everybody started playing her." He's like, "That was my hero that I love to play." Bam, there it is. I don't know if, I mean, that's not a guarantee that will be him, but the likelihood is definitely there.
Yeah, since we got Jin moving over to that ETC. All right, so we got the Tyrael and the Maiev on their side, where we have the Malfurion Tracer with a bit of kill potential for the No Tomorrow. No team has major macro advantage, a bit of a skirmish and rotational advantage over the No Tomorrow. I don't see any major screams or tells in terms of bans. Maybe that for No Tomorrow if they think the Stukov is worth the removal. But for Gale Force,
you know, it's a hero that has not been played a lot, but something that I think, and we've actually seen a different build on Akaface when he plays this hero, but Karazi.
okay.
I wouldn't be terribly opposed to it, and I'm going to keep throwing it out there because I think he does have a place in the meta. It's just right now there's so many strong supports like the Stukov, like the Malfurion. Obviously, you start to go further down the list at that end. And I really think he actually normally goes Insight, and it's a very different build that we've seen from them. You know, and then it comes to the range. Obviously, Maiev is going to be there. I was going to say maybe you could feign an Uther and Genji, so you have the full dive, but I don't know how I feel about Michael Yuda on Maiev while Biggie's on Genji, because then you kind of lack that traditional range damage dealer.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't have that kind of setup. It's a very all-in oriented composition. You maybe can get away with that more on Tyrael comps than you can some of the others.
You know what's funny is that I think it was Cursed Hollow where BK, this was the game where he played Li Ming. Or Genji, it was one or the other. They switched it up to where he was on one of those ranged heroes because they went this weird Li Ming Genji style.
Think we're going to get that today?
No.
I don't think so. Looking a bit more control within their roles here for Gale Force, and consistency has been a focal point. Typically, your roles are about the best place to start being consistent if you want to improve your in-game performance.
You're not telling people to one trick, are you?
No, it's where you start is the one, because then you learn everything else. Then you expand outward. Then you stick to a small sample size that's ever changing. What backline do we need here for Gale Force Esports? Stukov was taken off the table. I'm not even going to say the word Lili, but it's I feel almost more likely than any other support. I feel like at this point in time, there is no Medivh. But I want to put it past what the Tyrael picked up.
I feel like, depending on the support, because you got to worry about the threat of Mosh Pit, they still go Genji.
Very all-in team fights here for Gale Force. That being said, last game, they picked a composition that was the same thing, and they looked good, very dominant over No Tomorrow with it. So much so, I hope this last pick's just like...
Maybe we'll get another B-Kid Li Ming.
I don't hate the Arthas, again, in this type of situation. We've already gotten one Arthas today. A little vulnerable to Tracer.
Do you need another range, though? Because...
I don't think you do.
But Mosh Pit threat scares me here.
I agree. Mosh Pit is one of the most terrifying things in the game. I would just... You know, first, you just not clump. That's what I'd say, team. Boys, just don't clump up. Ideally, you just pick enough cross-sustain and HP bars that are very good threatening individually on their own to where the Mosh Pit, even if it goes off, you can sustain long enough to be okay. This might not be the comp that you can get away with it into if you end up committing to that. But then, like, again, that kind of Arthas afterwards, if you don't die during the Mosh, you're 100% going to wipe that fight after.
That is true.
Or you go for that back line to prep it up, make everybody else a little bit more consistent. I'm so happy he's shown up twice.
Today.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like my Uther, you know, where I was just like, hey, NA, you know, Uther, in fact, is still a hero in the right time, right place. And I thought Arthas was going to be another one where I just kept saying it. It's like one day it'll show up, like it's got a place. But no, it actually is turning up here twice. in week number 7 of HGC Phase 1.
Well, this team is incredibly difficult to pulse bomb. Like, other than a Rhaegar, I mean, there's not a whole lot, and you can get the protection from Tyrael, potentially. But when you look at Arthas, Genji, Tyrael, Maiev, when you have Genji and Maiev, they can basically cancel out a pulse bomb. Arthas, strong enough, shields from Tyrael. I think positioning on Akaface is going to be key here to make sure you have your cleanses available. Make sure you don't get caught in any of those choke points against the ETC, like you said. Don't clump. I think a lot of it will come down to Akaface here.
I agree, and you know, also the boss control out of Tyrael is something I'm keeping my eyes on for this Cursed Hollow match. Game 2. No tomorrow against Gale Force Esports.
No tomorrow. Unable to pick up a kill. And game number 1 went down 0-19, but we are on a different battleground, a very different draft. And again, the Tracer is not going to be Equinox, as that will be Shrite on his 2nd Tracer game this season.
I'd be willing to bet $1 esport that there in fact is a kill on the side of No Tomorrow in this game.
Just one?
I don't have many of them, J-How. Okay?
I'll bet 1.5.
I actually, you know, I've spent a lot of time talking about esports, playing esports, but in fact have only accumulated $1 esport, sadly. And even, you know, you don't want to even ask me what the exchange rate is from esport dollar and the normal dollar, because it gets weirder then.
It's like, yeah, it's a different type of currency. But we get started underway here, a little bit of a slow action.
It's like a cryptocurrency. It's just for commentators. Commentator cryptocurrency, the esport dollar.
So right now what stands out to me, other than Jen dying, that's what happens when you slide forward. I don't know if you know this, but I talked a lot about this towards the end of last year, put out a video on it showing how Breeze does things a little bit differently. And if you slide to the enemy side, the odds of you making it back go down significantly. But what I did want to talk about was when we saw Cursed Hollow, obviously we see the Malfurion. I remember a Team 12 draft on this. They went Rhaegar Greymane. Obviously we have Malfurion Greymane. But they literally just rotated around the map together and put pressure everywhere and forced rotations out nonstop while also doing significant amounts of structure damage. It looks like they wanted to try that, but it's a little bit different when you lose one of your members in the mid lane.
Yeah, it's pretty much... That's why I was talking about when the clash of the deaths, right? The 2 double kills happening pre-10 in the last game in favor of Gale Force, which this invade is just brilliantly done. Taking their offensive composition and just not letting anything up. What happened to Gale Force Esports?
I love it.
I adore it, but seriously, where is this coming from?
Everybody goes for that siege camp at 1 minute, so why not just walk in there and be like, yo, what you guys doing over here?
Yeah, and you know, I talk about how that used to be the go-to when camps, you know, way back before the scaling changes on Cursed Hollow and all the other maps as well, with the minions and ammo being so relevant. That used to be the go-to. You would start it, but only with very niche characters that you could get away from it. You know, for instance, old school level 1 healing ward on Rhaegar was one of the few characters you could use it on. Sonya was another one of them, and we see kind of that same iteration. Nice route there from Tomster. Big impact, comes in with that Swift Strike. There's Jin with the power slide, saving at least No Tomorrow for now. Fury trying to kite out. Use that smite to be able to make it out of there.
I'm not going to lie to you, Dreadnought. One of my favorite changes that came in one of these recent patches is that you're no longer, Casanova's no longer going to be able to live if he takes any bit more damage, B-Kid being aggressive there. But you're not going to be able to heal Siege Giants and stuff like that anymore with Malfurion. That's a big change, and that's actually been a pretty significant part. If you look at some of the past games from Tempo Storm, especially on Dragonshire, they would get in those situations where they would have a Tyrael Malfurion, they'd heal up, they'd continue to Moonfire, they'd shield in between all that, and would get just the push value that you just generally don't get. So we are going to see that change in the near future. That's why you saw so much value out of that siege camp there.
Something I'm looking forward to be honest. One of those changes that I very, you know, kind of agree with, because only few heroes can kind of make those situations kind of happen in that manner, and the impact they have is huge when they're done proper.
Time for Morales to be new meta.
Oh, baby. Tyrael is getting a great flank here. Going to throw the Druin's interrupts. Look at Mikey Doll coming in and not going to get the tether yet. Trying to track down Tomster, but Arthas ends up dying in the process. 2-man tether now as Gale Force Esports 1 for 1 so far in this skirmish. Mike getting a lot of damage there on the Maiev. Casanova trying to get out there with the disengage. Not able to make it out far enough. Another reset. No, well, you know, it wasn't a reset, but it's still a kill there. forcing that recall onto Tracer. On the plus side, my eSport dollar was in fact earned. No tomorrow. Got a kill.
Are we gonna? You wanna double down?
I'm willing to double down.
Oh,
I will
snap.
2 eSport dollars. No tomorrow will get 2 kills this game.
Ooh, 4 minutes in. Odds are probably in your favor.
Yeah.
You know, we'll reassess this at 6 minutes. I'll probably forget in 10 seconds anyways, so just leave it at that.
I think that's the second time we've been up here to admit that our, commentators, in fact, do have the attention span of a goldfish.
What'd you say?
Night Camp pressuring through mid. What can Gale Force make happen here with that Tyrael shielding you were talking about before? Korea really abused that kind of composition and strategy. Hold up there. Akafe forced to use the cleanse after that pulse bomb tether attempt. B-Kid ends up falling, but Equinox is very, very low. The damage is there. Akafe coming in with that Ghost Wolf bite. Able to get it. Jin goes in with the power slide. Give the reset. 2. Over to Big Impact. 3-for-1 trade in favor of GFE.
Dude, they're trying to give you them esports dollars, but they're trading out 1 for 3 every time. They are committing a lot to these team fights. I mean, they're literally putting everything they have to get these takedowns. Am I wrong in saying that was all 5 members of No Tomorrow there while Arthas was split the entire time?
That was.
I mean, that's not only are you losing kills, but you're losing a significant amount of experience.
It's one of those moments where you identify the rotation and pressure on one specific part of the map. You try to respond and rotate within a reasonable amount of time, but then that death comes in. It's too little too late to kind of pull back on the original call and rotation. It's just one of those losing a little bit of everything everywhere. And that was the case, in the first game as well. I talked about the relevance of the timing of a lot of the kills Gale Force was able to earn for themselves. Not as detrimental here, but surely a dour painted picture.
It kind of made me smile there when Fury's Tomster.
Good night. Here's the tether. Hex strike goes down.
Shrite so low. Udall got a reset on him. Oh, we've got Judgment coming in. When you win, why not win again? Oh, he didn't get the reset.
Hello?
He didn't get the reset. He died before his Swift Strike hit. Oh,
I feel when your team actually is doing too much damage. Thought that was a problem that can't happen, but...
Oh, I guarantee I can hear B-Kid on comms. He's like, I'm going in, baby! And then he's like, wait a minute. I'm stuck over here, baby!
Oh, big plays here for GFE. Maybe too big of ones at moments, but it's kind of one of those, what did it really cost you? And the answer is not that much. No tomorrow, not too much of an opportunity to fight back after that, failure to achieve the reset.
B-Kid, one of our more charismatic players here in Heroes of the Storm. If you've never seen him on stream, he is a very fun and entertaining gentleman to watch. I can guarantee you that much.
A lot of the pros kind of deem him as the, I don't want to say the origin of memes, but definitely the source of a lot of vernacular commonly used.
It's even gotten that thing where it's like a little bit like your friends start to pick up things that you're trying to say, sometimes like caster lingo. Because I now hear Jin doing it. Oh, wait, hold on.
Stealth boss. B-Kid tried to get the invade, not going to get it in time. Damage, not there. Ancestral healing does end up landing. Judgment still yet to be used. Goes in onto Casanova, then gets the kill. Vault used by Mike Udall now 2 for 1 so far for GFE. Reset number 3 there for Big E. And look at this now. No tomorrow, nowhere to run.
Akaface is killing it this game, man. Like, he's being aggressive in kills when he needs to be. He landed that clutch Ancestral there. B-Kid trying to get away from Shrite, who he needs to get out of there because if his team turns. But Gale Force, they turn their attention directly on here. Luckily, the Siege Giants had already made their way past the boss area. They would have gone anyways over time, and that's going to be keep number 1, 8 minutes in, 13 kills to 3. Dread in 2 games so far in a game and a half. We were looking at 32 kills to 3 in favor of Gale Force.
Gale Force flexing, and it's looking good. Taking a minute back, looking at this. At first I was like, where's the Saint? And then I was like, oh, right, there's that great Ancestral coming out from Aka. Pressure there onto Casanova's enough to get the kill. Mike Udall really kind of pressuring out with that tether. Nowhere to escape for Jin. That Warden's Cage in a different area. I mean, it really was just the watch the territorial choking that Maiev can introduce into that skirmish. Well done by Mike Udall, showing, why this hero is still in Gale Force Esports meta.
It's funny because when you talk about Gale Force, you don't necessarily talk about aggression. I mentioned their stats earlier. You know, in terms of like their actual hero damage per minute, they're actually at the bottom part. But when it comes to getting kills per game, they're third in North America, 8.9, which is a pretty high number. It's just a matter of cutting down on some of the deaths. But when you look at Biggie and Michael Udall, they rank 4th and 6th in North America in terms of kills per game, which puts them both in the top 18 in the world.
Gonna need it here. Poison Spear, look at that attempt there. Nice power slide coming in. The Warden's Cage locking everybody down. Jin is gonna be the first to drop, but somehow no kills there onto GFE quite yet. Now 2 members end up dropping 2 for 2 within the trade. Equinox getting that Whirlwind, keeping himself alive. Gale Force needs to get out of here. No reset available. B-Kid eats that Ancient Spear. Fury trying to keep himself alive. Big impact though, without the resets, he can't do anything. 3 for 2 in favor of No Tomorrow. You better tread lightly. This reset, oh, that recall was so confident.
He has extra human range, but the agility is going to buy a little bit of space. Oh, no.
The Swift. Oh, the Curse Bullet.
He's got a Swift Strike. He's gonna try and save that. Are you kidding me? I don't know why Shrite recalled. I feel like you could have got... Obviously, you want to hope that the Parting Gift gets the kill there, but... Unless he was afraid of a deflect coming up, that's really the only way I think he dies there, unless he had a Swift Strike, which I think he had just used it.
I don't know whether or not he had Swift Strike, because I will say I felt that in the moment, the opposite. The fact you are still autoing this Genji is scaring the hell out of me, to the point where it's like, you have to know there is no Swift Strike. Hold up, boss attempt.
Do we get a blind stage dive?
There's a Holy Ground this time.
A little late on the stage dive. They get the power slide over onto Akaface, who gets blown up as the Curse Bullet does connect this time. And now that is 1 member down on the side. Biggie? He's in trouble.
Able to get the reset there for very different
flow
reasons.
Like water.
Yeah, the 13 talent here, having near 100% uptime depending on how many targets you hit. Always want to aim for that 3-4, and when you do, suddenly looking at a double reset.
No Tomorrow is slowly finding their way back into this in terms of experience. Obviously, they're still down significantly in terms of structures. But when you look at the tributes and everything, it's now 1-0. If you can keep this, you have the global of Jin. You're trying to look at the bright side here, right? Obviously, if you're No Tomorrow, you have the global of Jin using that ETC, so you don't necessarily give up that lane hard. We've just seen the past few engagements go slightly in favor of No Tomorrow. They're starting to hold their own. If they can get on the even talent here, I think they're going to have an opportunity, because all it takes is one big team fight. Obviously, with all the forts still staying on the side of Gale Force, they've got a lot more work to do than just winning one team fight or two.
Yeah, and they're in a situation, too, where because the map objective on Power Spike comes in major lumps on on Curse Hollow, much like Tomb, it puts you in position to... They can reliably wait out the 16, just because they have this first tribute, as long as they get all the soak elsewhere. They're not going to wait it out, per se. They're just going to wait it out in a party shrub. Is all of No Tomorrow sharking around looking for Mike Udall, and Mike is... Wow, look at that. Not walking through.
Just everybody passed through there, and everybody has mobility. They just kind of take a shortcut.
Welcome to Heroes of the Storm, where everyone can jump the wall, so nobody walks into the party shrub. It's a sad party for No Tomorrow.
Guys, if this was 1 year ago, they have to path beside us.
They would, or at least take the safe rotation, which is what everybody would have done anyways. But yeah, it's a lot slower.
The fact that No Tomorrow is not here is a bit surprising to me, because this boss dread can potentially end the game, and by potentially I mean the probability is extremely high.
Gale Force wastes no time. Out a bit too far, No Tomorrow. Biggie poking, prodding, trying to make sure to check yourself, or we're gonna be the ones who are looking to wreck you. We'll find out. We have to keep in mind there is no sanctification, which makes me skeptical on whether or not this is enough to end this game.
It is true.
There's a judgment. Fury now takes a lot of damage. B-Kid goes in. Holy Ground gets the split. Ancestral does end up landing. Jin goes in, hits a 2-man power slide. Boss Slam not going to land on anybody yet. Judgment flies forward. There's the Warden's Cage locking it down. Jin trying to get out there, but it's enough to get the kill. B-Kid keeps himself alive. Equinox trying to do the same, but unable to do so. That is 4 for 0. Gale Force is going to take this game.
Poor Jin there. He got locked down in every possible way. Tomster staying alive for the moment. They actually get a trade there, as B-Kid probably definitely screaming something about baby in the middle of all that as he goes down trying to get the kill onto Tomster. But that is Gale Force now. 2 games, 39 kills. This time they gave up 8 versus 0 last time. But 2 games, 39 kills. Any chance we see Maev make it through next draft? You want to bet those 2 esports dollars you picked up?
I want to say, yeah, those 2 esports dollars I had before. I'm gonna put it as like a probably not, but at this point, I don't know, to be honest. No Tomorrow's got to, be digging deep, and whatever that answer is, it feels like Maev has to be the focus. That seems like the simple answer, but then even then, to be honest with you, the way Gale Force is playing, it just goes, they're just going, we're a better team, right? In a lot of these cases, I feel like at the back end of that game, there was a couple moments where taking decisions they normally maybe wouldn't to be able to get away with it, but it's because they're so far ahead, able to take those confidence skirmishes, and they were still winning them, right? It wasn't even like it was a risky decision. It was risky decision-making and still not struggling, much like that bottom keep siege in Game 1.
My favorite part, and I think that the part there is that it is this game, because Gale Force has struggled sometimes in Cursed Hollow in the mid to late game with decision making. There it was a little bit easier, but I think the main thing that we can focus on is that they controlled the pace. 1 minute into the game, they strictly walked over. They know that Greymane's going to be going over to those Knights. And the main thing you can kind of identify there is because Greymane and Malfurion went to the top lane. They're prepping that. They want to get that top lane value. Greymane is one of the highest kill potential heroes in the early part of the game and throughout. You know that he's going to be on the Siege Giant, so they didn't show anything. They rotated their entire team over. So 2 games in a row on Infernal Shrines, they came out, got the first 2 kills in the first skirmish. In that one, they were able to control the camps. They controlled the pace of the first 2 games. So for a team like Gale Force to control the entirety of a game, I think is definitely something. There was one minor slip up around that boss fight. But for a team like Gale Force, that's a pretty big statement for you when that's not normally your forte.
And I think it's going to be a bigger statement if that continues into a game number 3, because this is not the first time we've looked at Gale Force and been like, very impressive play, but then look at the game afterwards and just go, okay, what kind of happened here, right? Is keeping that up for the entirety of a series. And we're going to be looking to see if they continue to do so after this commercial break. More HGC. Stick with us.